Tucked into the district of Kangpokpi is the village of Loibol-Kulen. It is quiet, rural, and geographically isolated. But at 4 in the morning on June 5, 2026, that isolation became a fatal vulnerability. Before the sun even came up, an organized group of armed militants descended on the community. By the time they finally withdrew, 7 distinct family homes within the village had been completely reduced to ashes. 3 residents of the village did not survive. Lek Kangal Haukip, his 30-year-old wife Tin Mary, and a 34-year-old man named Jangmin Lal Haukip were killed in the assault. Within hours, Kuki representative bodies pointed to a specific culprit. They alleged the attack was executed by cadres of the NSCN-IM, a major Naga insurgent group, along with its proxy outfit, ZUFK. In the wake of the killings, local police have remained entirely silent. This absence of information leaves a chilling question. How can a coordinated, heavily armed assault level a village while the state says nothing? The dawn attack on the Haukip family is the latest symptom of a crisis that has been bleeding Manipur dry for over 3 years. To understand the geography of this violence, we have to look at how the entire state broke apart. In May of 2023, large-scale protests broke out across Manipur over the Meitei community's demand for scheduled tribe status. Those protests rapidly devolved into violent clashes between the Meitei and the Kuki-Zo tribal communities. This chart tracks the official estimate of fatalities since the initial unrest erupted. Over the course of the conflict, more than 250 people have been killed, with the data showing a continuous upward crawl rather than a resolved incident. The secondary effect of that violence was a massive displacement. Around 60,000 people fled their homes. Years later, large numbers of families from both communities are still living out of temporary relief camps. The end result is the current map of Manipur. Entire districts are now physically segregated. If you drive through the region today, you will hit militarized road checkpoints, enforcing hard, ethnic borders. What started as a political debate over government status shattered the physical map. It turned neighboring communities into guarded, heavily fortified territories. While the massive statewide rioting we saw in the early months has cooled down, it has been replaced by a quiet, lethal alternative. The new normal consists of sporadic ambushes and targeted gun attacks in vulnerable border districts. Local groups like the Kuki Students Organization claim that the battlefield is expanding. They allege that Naga insurgent groups have entered the fray, specifically to target Kuki ancestral areas. Looking at this network diagram, you can see the complexity of the current landscape. There is an entire alphabet soup of heavily armed proxy factions, groups like the NSCN-IM, ZUFK, and VBIG, operating on behalf of larger ethnic interests. These factions use the perpetual chaos of the ethnic divide as a smokescreen. Under the guise of community defense, they execute highly calculated, heavily armed maneuvers to assert dominance over contested land. Manipur's violence has evolved into a highly organized proxy war. Armed groups are now systematically exploiting the state's internal divisions to secure territory and influence. Which brings us back to the ashes of Loibol-Kulen. Despite the severe allegations, there has been absolutely no public response or denial from the militant groups accused of the killings. More concerning is the posture of the government. Manipur maintains a heavily militarized presence, yet state police have remained entirely silent on the murders, offering no explanation and no arrests. The Kuki Inpi Manipur, the ATEX tribal body, issued a formal statement calling the assault a barbaric act of violence. They demanded the national government launch an immediate investigation to hold the perpetrators accountable. They also pleaded for reinforced security around exposed villages. But tucked at the end of their statement was a clear warning. If the government fails to protect them, the organization will not be held responsible for what happens next. The tragedy in Kangpokpi is a microcosm of a completely failed peace process. It proves that until the deep territorial and political fractures are resolved, Manipur will remain a tinderbox, leaving isolated villages to pay the ultimate price in an endless shadow war.